God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter, is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Findley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
But not this episode.
Not in this episode, although there were plenty of opportunities for Maude to have gotten Duke.
Yes. Yes.
My name is Tom Catt, and I am joined by the Duchess of Homeperm herself, Toni Homeperm.
That is I.
That
Toni
is
with
you.
an I.
And today we are. Let's first start by saying who we are.
Who are we?
We're Tom Catt and Toni Homeperm, and
What
we
are we?
host. Welcome to God'll Get You for That, Walter, a podcast where we discuss the 1970s hit sitcom Maude.
Where every episode is probably the last episode.
And this is our episode 49.
49, yes.
And we are going over Maude Meets The Duke, which is the season 3 opener.
Yes.
And it aired September 9th, 1974.
Yes.
And to those unfamiliar, the Duke stands for
John Wayne.
Who is the big? What a way to begin a season! What a way to begin a season with like a really big name movie star.
Yeah.
Like the Duke.
Yeah.
Not the Duke, but Duke.
Do we know were Maude and John Wayne friends?
I have
B.
no
Arthur
idea.
and John Wayne?
I have zero clue.
I'm curious about that.
I really don't know.
Because
Night and day actors.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
night and day actors.
really. So
To those unfamiliar, John Wayne was a very famous Western movie star. And he, was very well known for
westerns,
spaghetti westerns,
war movies,
movies,
those kinds of things.
And he was always a very gruff,
Yeah.
up from their bootstraps actor,
Yes.
and also ludicrously conservative.
Yes, and funny thing is, because I can't remember it now, but John was not his given name at birth. It was something actually very feminine, right?
I think it was,
what was his, do we remember what his Marion was his given name.
Marion was his given name.
Marion Robert Morrison was his given name, and Hollywood changed it to John Wayne.
Of course.
Marion was not
they changed
much enough.
They changed Joan Crawford's name. It was Lucille Lucy something.
Marilyn Monroe was Norma Jean.
Monroe was Norma Jean.
Everybody had like a different name.
My name is changed. My real name is not Tom Catt. Your real name is not Toni Homeperm.
Although my real name is Toni.
Your real name is Toni, and my real name is Tom.
It's Tom. Yes.
Just left of center.
Just slightly.
Just left of center.
Just slightly.
So the episode was directed by Hal Cooper. Was written by Norman Lear, Bob Hilliard, Bob Weisskopf, and Bob Schiller. And there are a few other guest stars. Elizabeth Fraser returns to play another tertiary character, just of ill importance, of non-importance. And one of the reasons why because I have it written down, March 7th, 1973 was the 45th Oscars. The reason I was telling Toni I did not want to go over this episode was because we were going to have to talk about the noteworthy moments in Oscar history, and people are saying how the slap that Will Smith gave Chris Rock, which he is being raked across the coals for, absolutely, there's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason for it.
It's like I just haven't wanted to talk about it really, because it seems like no matter what your opinion is on it,
it's the wrong opinion. It's the wrong opinion to have on it.
So
and,
I don't know.
It's important to pay attention to the fact that John Wayne is infamous.
Yes.
For being held back.
Yes.
While oh God, what is her name?
Oh, the Native American.
The Native American woman who accepted the award
for Marlon Brando.
For Marlon Brando's winning The Godfather.
Yes.
And she was up on stage basically saying, like, Hollywood, please stop representing Indians and Native Americans in such a potentially harmful light. And, Raquel Welch said something uncouth about I think her name was Little Feather.
Yeah, I think it was like Sasheen. Yes, Sacheen Littlefeather.
Sacheen Littlefeather
is her name. Yes. Sacheen. I hope I'm pronouncing correctly.
Sacheen Littlefeather.
Sacheen Littlefeather.
Yes.
She was good friends with Marlon Brando.
Yes. They were both very good friends.
She was a very good friend of him.
And not for nothing, the Oscars more recently have just become very politicized. And, you know, to think back to 1973, which was when the Oscars originally aired. When the 45th Oscars aired.
Yes.
For something like that to happen was a very big deal.
Yes.
And John Wayne was none too pleased about that.
Yeah.
And apparently, rumor has it that like 6 staff members had to like hold him back from trying to like drag her off stage.
Yeah.
And, you know, not for nothing, kudos to Marlon Brando for doing that, but also, like, wouldn't you have sent somebody else to do that? Like, I don't know.
Well, you know, he was making a political statement.
He was making a very staunch political statement.
He wanted you know, and he felt like that for this statement about Native Americans, a Native American person should make the statement, which I think was the correct thing to do.
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
He was trying to give visibility to the Native Americans.
Yes. Yes, he was, and he did it in a very bold way that some actors in Hollywood were just none too pleased about.
Yeah, you know. But you know, up until that point, you know, there was, you know, I mean, American movie making, you know, for so many decades was so whitewashed.
Yes.
You know, so full of inaccuracies.
Yep.
So kudos to Marlon Brando for, you know, taking that sort of stand, because nobody even knew about this.
At that point, Native Americans were tokenized.
Yeah,
they were tokenized. Yeah. There were racial stereotypes that were used. I mean, it's the same thing with blacks in Hollywood. It's the same thing with any type of minority. It's always tokenized, and like some stereotypes are often like really, really, really the hyper focus of the material being filmed.
And you know, John Wayne's career was basically built on that. You know, that Hollywood fallacy of the
Hollywood
cowboys versus Indians.
Cowboys and Indians, yeah.
You know, so that's you know, he probably felt like Marlon Brando was coming for his gig.
Yeah,
like we drag queens say, and he thinks some other queen is trying to like steal your show,
steal your thunder,
and you're like, she's coming for your gig, girl.
I mean, but. I don't know. For me, this was a far worse atrocitation than
atrocitation?
That's my new word. Atrocitation. It was a far worser atrocity than anything that Will Smith or Chris Rock did. Like, please, there are far worser things, and you know, to also paint an even broader picture. Roman Polanski won an Oscar, but he couldn't accept the Oscar.
Yeah. Because he's been banished from the country because of statutory rape.
And Woody Allen was another one.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Harvey Weinstein also won an Oscar.
Yes.
Like there are far worse. But the thing is, they're all white and they get away with it.
Very true.
But you didn't hear that from me.
No. So we're at the kitchen. Maude and Walter are extremely tired.
Yes.
Because
why are they extremely tired?
They're extremely tired because Arthur woke them up because he was mowing the lawn at 2 a.m.
2 in the morning. I was in my old house.
Yes. This is in Brooklyn?
No, in Ronkonkoma. And everyone in my house was dead asleep. Mm-hmm. And there was a gentleman behind our house, a couple of houses over, diagonal, who was using his power washer for hours on end.
Okay.
We did not know what he was... There was no reason for them to be power washing at the hour they were power washing.
Of course not. There's always that one neighbor.
Always that one neighbor. Always that one neighbor.
Yeah.
So I understand exactly how Maude and Walter feel on that.
Yes.
Have you ever been awoken at an ungodly hour because of a neighbor?
No, but we have a neighbor that last summer they had a retirement party. I mean, they were very nice. Like they like invited us. Yeah. But I had a show.
Of course.
But we got home from the show, and apparently the party was still going on. And now this is a separate house.
Yes.
They had a DJ. the music was so loud.
It shook the house.
I could, like, inside our own home, I could feel it, like, inside me, as if, like, I was in a club.
That's lovely.
And I'm like, if it's this loud in my own home, I was like, well, how loud is it where they are? How could you be enjoying that?
Yeah, that's disrespectful.
But I'm like, how do you even enjoy
the party?
The party if the music is that loud. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like if you were right there by the speakers. I mean, I think people must have gotten, like, you know, permanent hearing damage.
Perhaps.
I mean,
that's a them problem.
I was like, but I just
it was a retirement party. Perhaps they were all deaf.
I don't know. Could be. So, you know, that was not pleasant, and I could not wait for the party to end.
Yes. But we digress.
So
Maude and Walter are complaining and commiserating at the fact that Arthur woke them up at 2 a.m. and they never got any sleep.
And then he starts mowing again.
Yep.
So Walter goes out to yell at Arthur.
Yep.
That's when Carol comes in. She's also, you know, kind of out of it because she was woken up too. She's asking
for the aspirin. And Maude says, I had the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Carol says, that's all right. So she opens the bottle, takes the cotton out, and puts it in her ears.
Yes.
And then at that point, Carol exits. Mm-hmm. Walter enters.
Maude she said, did you ask him why he's mowing so much?
At 8 in the morning.
Why is he mowing again?
Why is he mowing again at 8 o'clock?
And, you know, and Walter's like, he said that it's grown since he mowed at 2 a.m.
Yep.
And Walter's saying that, you know, he's worried about Arthur. Something's going on.
And, you know, Maude says, well, maybe it's Vivian. Her teeth have been looking sharper.
Yes, he says he thinks something's gnawing at Arthur.
Yeah, something's gnawing at Arthur.
Something's gnawing at him, so Maude suggests Vivian's teeth. That's when Arthur comes in, and he's trying to explain to them what's happening.
He's sort of pussyfooting around, like, why he's doing it.
Yes. And so then I think they were discussing, like, about the mowing of the grass.
Yep. And, you know, again, Arthur's being very, I don't want to tell you, but I should tell you.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, no, never mind, and leaves. And then, like, Walter's like, what are you doing, Arthur?
Yes.
Just tell us. We're your friends. Like, what's going on?
Yes.
And Arthur's like, all right, I'll tell you, but Maude, you have to leave. You have to promise not to laugh. Right. And he says, Maude, could you please leave the room?
Right,
and Maude's like, Arthur, this is my home. If I have to leave, I'll raise my hand.
Raise her hand, yes. And so that's when he tells them that John Wayne is coming to his house.
Yes.
And, of course, after promising not to laugh...
They laugh.
I mean, what would... And Maude's like, now she'd, like, really like to leave the room. And Walter's like...
She says, I'll raise my hand now.
He's like, the John Wayne? And
Arthur goes on this total fanboy trip where he's like, I've known John Wayne for years. We're pen pal. His name is not the Duke, it's Duke.
Duke, yes.
And
at some point during that, Maude is like, she gets up because she says she's expecting the Lone Ranger.
Expecting the Lone Ranger for brunch.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I think Arthur said, you know, I knew that as soon as I started mentioning it, that acid tongue of yours would start jutting out.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh, we're really going for the jugular on Maude on that one.
Yes. And Arthur's like, you know, I'm having a big star in my own home.
Yep.
And Walter's like, well, why your house? And that's when you know, Arthur tells him that you know, we're good, we're friends.
Yeah.
And Walter's like, friends? And he's
Walter's like, in the 30 years I've known you, you never once mentioned being friends with John Wayne. And Arthur says, well, John Wayne doesn't go around Hollywood saying he's friends with me.
With me. So
and Maude's like, he's lost it.
Yeah. Walter, he starts asking him, like, when was the last time you saw? Just Plain Duke.
Yes, Just Plain Duke. When was the last time you saw Just Plain Duke?
Yes.
And Arthur, like, picks up the mug of coffee. I mean, well, the funny thing was, in the beginning, when Arthur comes in, he gulps down what he assumes is coffee. Mm-hmm. And he says to Walter, that is the worst cup of coffee I've ever had. And Walter says, I know, it's because it's orange juice. And then that's when Maude asks, "What kind of grass were you mowing?"
Yes, I forgot that. That was funny.
That was a funny bit.
Yes.
So after that,
so Maude gets down to the nitty gritty they've actually never met.
Yes, we find out that Arthur has never met
Yes.
John Wayne.
And Arthur says, well, they're pen pals.
Of course they're pen pals.
Yes.
And, Maude is like, well, how often do you write John Wayne?
Yeah.
And Arthur says, once a week. And Maude says, for how long?
Yeah.
And Arthur says, oh, well, for 30 years.
25
years.
For 25
Once
years.
a week for 25 years.
I was like, that's fan mail. You're a groupie is basically what she's saying.
Arthur's a fanboy. Have you ever sent a celebrity a fan letter?
Hell no.
I have.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, who?
Pat Carroll.
Oh.
Yep. I never got anything back.
Oh.
But recently I actually got a Funko Pop that she autographed.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. To those who don't know, Pat Carroll was the voice of Ursula.
Yes.
Whom is another one of my patron saints that I impersonate. That's it for me in the Good Times department. Pat Carroll and B. Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could have gotten something autographed by B, but one celebrity I really did not want to meet in person. Mm-hmm. I just never wanted to meet her in person. Mm-hmm. Because I think it was one of those moments where it's like, once you meet your heroes,
yes.
and there's always that like bitter realization that, your heroes are actually not that. They're just
ordinary people.
They're just ordinary people.
Yeah.
And I feel like B was definitely one of those individuals who's like, I always felt like B was one of those just actresses that they enjoy conversating, but she would much rather enjoy being at home, being a homebody.
Right.
And also, very fun fact, on both shows that she was on, B was always, the character that B played was always alluded to be a horrible cook.
Uh-huh.
B was actually a gourmand.
Oh.
And she was a fabulous chef.
Mm-hmm.
She was a fabulous cook. She always threw small dinner parties, and she was always a fabulous, fabulous entertainer.
Oh.
So it was just, potpourri for you.
Interesting.
Potpourri for you.
Now, you would probably know this. Who is, like, B. Arthur's, like, closest celebrity friend? Do you know?
I would have to say Angela Lansbury.
Oh, really?
I would have to say Angela Lansbury.
Okay.
She was they did MAME together,
right.
and they were just they became very close friends during MAME, and, Rue McClanahan was like, I remember reading a story that when Rue's mother passed, B insisted that Rue come over for Thanksgiving dinner. Mm-hmm. And, B made this fabulous dinner, and then she tucked Rue into bed, and, that's a great friend, but they were never, like, sisters.
Uh-huh.
They were never always that close.
Oh.
But if I had to assume one of B's closest friends, it would have to be Angela Lansbury.
Interesting fact. Interesting tidbit. All right, so Arthur says that John Wayne, he's coming to town. He's taking him and Vivian to his film premiere of his new movie, Brannigan. And Walter says, "Oh, is that a war movie?"
And that's when Maude says, "No, John Wayne's won all the wars."
Yeah. And Arthur explains, no, he plays a cop from Chicago he travels to London to catch a
very much
killer.
Like a
sounds like a Liam Neeson
like a
movie.
Liam Neeson movie,
doesn't it?
Sounds very much like a Liam Neeson movie.
It's the plot of every Liam Neeson movie, right?
Every Liam Neeson.
I will find you.
Yep. And we come to find out that Maude is just not a big fan of John Wayne.
Not a big fan of JW. And I have to say, this was interesting for a show to be having a celebrity on.
That's focusing on their politics.
Yeah, and
very interesting that they would do that.
Yeah, and have somebody on where one of the characters, doesn't the main character doesn't really like the celebrity or like their politics, that kind of a thing. Usually, most times when you have on most sitcoms when they have a more famous Hollywood movie type actor,
their politics would be kept out of the conversation.
It's like much more reverent, yes. I guess. Or they'll be playing a character They won't be playing themselves.
Like, I think of Donna Summers as Aunt Una from Altoona. Donna
No
Summers.
S.
Donna Summers. Thank you.
There's no S.
Donna Summers. I'm trying to think of like other famous actors and actresses that like guest starred. Joan Collins on The Nanny. She played
Yes.
Max's father's mistress.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think the only character I'm now thinking about guest stars on the Nanny. Elizabeth Taylor played herself. But even Elizabeth Taylor played like a sort of caricature version of Elizabeth Taylor. Like it wasn't. There was no mention of politics. There was no mention of any of that. But I think also John Wayne was one of the more famous conservative actors in Hollywood.
Yeah. You know, Joan Crawford was on the Lucy Show. I was watching a little bit of a clip.
And I remember Tallulah Bankhead on an episode of the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour.
Yes.
And like that, I mean, even Tallulah, like who was a staunch conservative. I'm trying to, I can't think of the word.
Wow.
It's not patriot. It's the all I'm seeing is like the stars in the. Oh my God! Why can't I think of the name of the person? The name of the group. Nationalist. Not a nationalist.
No. Okay.
Oh my God! Southern. Oh, for the love of Pete.
Well, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but I mean, the politics of a celebrity were not often mentioned in comedies, in sitcoms.
Yeah. No. So this was, and also like, I'm like wondering, like, how did they sell that to John Wayne too? So like, you're coming on
because you have Maude, who is this incredibly liberal, feminist, and then you're going to introduce her to John Wayne.
Yeah.
So honestly, that probably may have been also publicity for Brannigan.
True.
Publicity for Brannigan.
He was
and
trying
also
to get publicity for a movie.
I was gonna say, let's not forget that like it's possible, because I don't know what tabloids ran during the 70s. But also remember that the year prior, or the year of, was when John Wayne had to be restrained. So it's possible that John Wayne was trying to like soften his image a little bit.
It's also probably highly likely that John Wayne's movies were not doing as as they did in the past.
Yeah.
And probably he was looking at some way, like his publicity team, some way to like.
And I am positive that it was marketed as like, Maude Findlay versus
John Wayne.
Which is actually, it's a plot point in this episode.
Yes.
So
literally.
So, Maude's like, I know 4 people who show more emotion than John Wayne, and they're all on Mount Rushmore.
Right, yes.
And, Arthur's, like, combating her, saying, Laurence Olivier can't get away with it. He just stands there. Like, and he's doing this whole bit of...
Well, even before that, he was saying he was going to invite them over to be there.
Yes.
And then he gets mad at them, and he's like, you can't come. And he storms, like, out into the living room. And that's when Walter starts basically begging because he wants.
And
Carol
Carol takes the cotton out of her ears.
Yeah, Carol. She hears this.
Philip will absolutely flip if he meets John Wayne.
Yes, and that's when
everybody loves John Wayne except Maude.
Except Maude. Yeah, that's when she compares. She makes the Mount Rushmore comparison.
Yep.
And that's when Arthur does his
bit from
Allegheny Uprising.
Allegheny Uprising.
He imitates John Wayne, like coming through
sauntering
through the doors and pulling out his guns, and then he's just standing there. And Walter's like, "Well, and what did he say?" And he didn't have to say anything.
He just stood there being John Wayne.
Yes.
And he makes a comment about Laurence Olivier. Saying, like, Laurence Olivier could never.
He could never.
Like what would he say? And Maude says, Laurence Olivier. Why isn't John Wayne doing this lousy picture?
And Maude brings up that his favorite part of the chicken is the right wing.
He's Mr. Conservative.
And Walter, Walter doesn't.
He says, I don't care about his politics.
He doesn't care about his politics.
Isn't that just like a man?
Of course. And we would know.
We would know.
And Walter's going on about all the times that he spent in dark theaters watching John Wayne movies.
Watching John Wayne movies, and
Maude's
like, so I spent lots of hours in dark theaters loving lots of men.
Yeah. That's when we hear this huge loud bang,
boom,
and like the set shakes. Vivian comes running in the
and
front
she's
door.
covered in dust and debris and probably some asbestos.
Probably. And she says, telling Arthur,
the ceiling fell and caved in, and
all your trophy mugs were broken.
All the trophy
I was
mugs
almost
were broken.
Killed.
If I just stepped 2 steps to the left, I'd have been squashed. Just 2 little steps to the left. And Arthur just completely ignores her, saying, Vivian, I can hear that story anytime. Where are we going to find a place to host Duke?
The host Duke. Yes, they have to find another place.
And the entire cast just looks at Maude.
Yeah.
And, there's a brief pause and, Maude just glowering at everybody.
Yeah.
Arthur says, Maude, has anybody ever told you how lovely you look? And, Maude's like, don't even try it. Yes. And, Arthur says, well, then I take it all back. Like, very childish. Childish.
But Walter, he's not having it. He tells Walter, you can have the house. Yep. He wants to meet Duke.
Wants to meet Duke.
Duke.
And, Maude's like, I'm not going to have somebody as conservative as John Wayne enter my house. And, Arthur's like, horse feathers. I'm much more conservative than John Wayne. And you invite me into your house all the time. And I think this was the loudest I've ever heard Maude scream.
Yes.
Where she just looks at Arthur and says, oh, how could I forget? Get out!
And, Walter supersedes. He says, Arthur, the house is yours.
And then at that point, Arthur just runs outside and invites the entire Tuckahoe marching band
the door, welcomes them in.
And just the entire marching band enters and they're like playing and they've
got a big welcome Duke sign.
Yep. Just the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
The whole 9 yards. And then at that point we cut to commercial.
Go to commercial.
And when we come back, Philip's on the phone with his friend Billy.
Hello, Billy.
Hello, Billy. And Philip, that dear sweet little tot, says, because I think Billy asked, like, how'd you convince your grandmother to let John Wayne in? And Philip was just like, I just turned on the waterworks. It works every time. Just turn the tears on. It works every time.
And now he tells him he's charging 50 cents to let them in the house, 25 cents
to watch from the window.
Look through the window.
To look through the window.
And that's when Maude comes out, and she's
in a gorgeous black, I think of all the colors that we saw, hers was the most stark. Because it was this black vest with these long sleeves and this sort of like black, red, and yellow pattern on. It was beautiful, and I needed it. I need it.
You need it.
I do.
And she's kissing Philip.
And she's like, oh, well, at least you'll remember this for the rest of your life. Because, again, this is going against her principles. Yes. She doesn't want this conservative person in her house.
Yes.
And she's doing it for the love of her grandchild.
Yes, and Philip says, and we'll all be richer for it.
And he shakes his
change
pants.
that he's made.
He shakes his jacket.
Yes. And then the phone rings again. And Maude picks it up, and she's like, hello? She's not interested. And Carol comes out of the kitchen, and she says, who is that?
In a beautiful body contrast.
Yes,
very pretty body contrast.
Yes, and Maude says, it's the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Yep.
I don't know what group that are. I guess it's some sort of
conservative a woman's conservative group.
And, anti-feminist group, I'm sure.
And I think at that point, Maude hangs up the phone, and she says something about cows never going to let me lick envelopes again. Was it Congress of Women or was it some other organization?
I don't remember. It was some feminist women's organization.
Yes, a liberal feminist organization. Which
she
says, if they catch wind of it, they'll never let me lick another envelope.
Yes. Carol asks Maude what she thinks about the dress, and of course it's a good opportunity to show Carol's cleavage.
Of course, because that was product placement at that point. And again, she's in this beautiful, dark blue, floor-length dress. It's very attractive. And it's very attractive on Carol.
Yes.
And, Maude looks down and she says, John Wayne's not interested in that. He's interested in horses.
Yeah.
And their byproducts.
And Carol, she's excited because Arthur's going to get her and Philip free tickets to see his new movie.
Yep.
That's when the doorbell rings for the first time.
Maude jokes and says, Arthur's a doctor. He can't even get free samples from the pharmaceutical corporations.
Yes.
And she opens the door and...
it's Liz.
It's Liz.
And with the kids. And she has to start explaining who each kid is. This is from the first husband. This is from
the second husband. And this is my current husband.
Yeah. I was
And Maude says, well, it's very nice to meet you. And then slams the door in your face.
And the phone rings again. Maude tells Carol, just tell them no.
And Carol answers the phone and says, Mother says no.
My mother says no.
Hangs up the phone.
Yes.
And then the doorbell rings again, and she opens
Walter comes in.
Oh, did Walter come in?
Yes,
Or what,
Walter came in.
Oh, okay, so there was no knocking on the door.
And he was like, why did you lock the door? And she tells him she was
to keep out burglars and
Republicans. And we find out Walter was at the barber.
Yes.
Which becomes quite important as we progress. The doorbell rings again.
And she says, oh my God, it's probably the CIA posing as the Avon lady. Or the
yes.
Avon lady posing as the CIA.
And it's Liz asking if she can borrow a cup of sugar. And
Maude says, oh, Liz, knock it off. You know you're a diabetic. And slams the door in her face. And then Carol says, rude, mother. Yeah. Rude.
Then Arthur comes in, and he's dressed like the most stereotypical, like, cowboy.
He's got the furry chaps. He's got the cowboy hat. He's got the ascot.
And Maude sees him. She says, we gave it the stable.
we gave it the stable. And, Arthur holds open the door and is, like, trying to muscle his way in. Yeah. And she says, he says in a very southern voice, you better let me in or I'll blow this place here to kingdom come. Mm-hmm. And Maude says, perfect, Paul Lynde. Which I would love to impersonate Paul Lynde.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
I think that would be absolutely hysterical. Yes. Because, I think, who was
Ben
it?
de
Ben de la Creme.
Yes.
Ben de la Creme famously or infamously
on Drag Race
All-Stars impersonated Paul Lynde to
so
riotous perfection.
So good. He really was. Walters, he's telling Arthur he loves the outfit.
Yep. And he got the costume from that place across the street from Finley's Friendly Appliances, who was sponsored by.
Yes, and Walter was like 31 flavors, which of course is
Baskin Robbins.
And he's like, no, it was
Cohen's Cowboy Corral.
Yes.
And
Corral, or was it Cohen's Cowboy Closet?
I think it was Cohen's Cowboy Corral.
Okay. I mean, it was all three. It was like C3s. It was
it was very alliterative.
It
was very alliterative.
Yes. So the doorbell rings again.
Yep.
And Liz is like, "You're right.
I am
diabetic.
Could I borrow a cup of saccharin?
Like, who would need a cup
of saccharin? It's just no.
Yes.
Why not just ask for a cup of aspartame?
Yeah, really. So Maude's just like, fine, come in. And Vivian then comes through from the kitchen.
Yeah, she comes in from the kitchen holding this.
She has a
poster
for
Brannigan
Duke's movie Brannigan. She left a note on their door, like telling Duke where to come, because obviously he thinks he's supposed to be going to Arthur's, but he can't go into Arthur's house because.
And Maude says what? He's not going to be able to pick up your trail.
Yeah.
Which was cute.
So now the doorbell rings again,
yep.
And it's a bunch of kids that come in, and they're mobbing Arthur because they see somebody in a cowboy
outfit. And Philip's like, "No, that's not John Wayne. Can't you see he's too short?" And they all look at Maude, and Maude says, "Don't look at me."
That's when Maude notices Walter's hair. Specifically, his hair piece. She's like, Your bald spot is gone.
Your bald spot is gone. And, Walter takes off the hairpiece. Yeah. And he says, this is the latest in hair technology.
Yes.
And, Maude holds the hair. I think either Maude holds the hairpiece or she, looks at it and she says, Walter, this is the year of Kojak. Bald is beautiful.
That's right. So Arthur's telling everybody, he's telling them to spread out, look American.
Yes. And I think he also does this bit where he's throwing around his guns.
Yes.
And Walter is agog at the ability and the talent of this man.
Yes.
And I think at that point, or maybe we missed it.
I think we missed it. That was earlier.
That was earlier. And Maude turns to Arthur after he's done doing his gun flipping tricks. And I think Maude says, you have the perfect outfit for armed robbery.
Yes.
A license to 2 guns and a license to practice medicine.
Exactly.
And that was adorable.
Yes. So Maude is saying that this is not going to be fun and games. She's intent.
She's going to interrogate.
She's going to grill Duke like he was a cheap burger on
A cheap burger at Burger King.
Yes, exactly. She's gonna grill him like a burger. And Arthur is saying that he's a patriot. Was he?
He's an institution.
Yes. And Maude's like a patriot. She's like then she's going on about he's just a movie star
is a movie star.
Yes.
John Wayne is no different than Donald Duck, except he's not quite as good an actor.
Exactly. She's basically had it now. So she's heading towards the door. She's putting on her coat,
and she says, "If I can't have a conversation with the Duke of Wayne, then there's no reason for me to stay in this house."
Right.
She opens the door and she just
the door was she's still going on.
She's going on and she opens the door while putting on the coat.
Yes.
And just prattling on.
Yes.
I wish that I could remember any of the monologue that she continues.
It was so hard to hear because people were laughing so hard in the audience.
Yes, they were laughing so hard.
Because John Wayne comes up behind her and he's standing there behind her and she's oblivious to it.
I remember seeing her mouth saying, "Do you hear what I'm telling you? Is anybody hearing what I'm telling you?"
Yes.
And she just goes on and on, puts the coat on, buttons it up, turns around.
Yes.
And she's initially looking down, and then she looks up to see John Wayne's face.
Yes. And she sort of becomes starstruck at that point.
She's a bit aghast. A bit aghast.
Yes.
And the audience is clamoring and like they're all going on, and I think when the audience finally settles, John Wayne turns to Maude and says, "Who are you?" Or I'm looking for Dr. Arthur Harmon.
Yeah, John Wayne says that.
Yeah, John Wayne says, "I'm looking for Dr. Arthur Harmon." Like, who is Dr. Arthur Harmon?
Yes.
And Maude raises her hand saying, "I am." And
he reminded me of the Burt Reynolds scene.
The Burt Reynolds
Golden
episode.
Girls. Like,
which one's the slot?
I am. Yeah.
And also, it was sort of a combination of the Burt Reynolds episode from the Golden Girls and also the President's Coming, which was another episode of the Golden Girls. Yes. Where, like, Maude is initially like, "I'm going to tell the president off. I'm going to, like..."
Dorothy.
I'm so sorry, Dorothy. Interchangeable sometimes.
Yes.
Yes. But it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Where I think it was Bush at the time. Bush Sr.
Yes.
Was going to come by the house and... Dorothy was like, "I'm going to have a few questions for him."
Yeah.
And then as soon as she sees the president, it's like... She's just starstruck.
So John Wayne's like, "Hi, folks." And he's complimenting Arthur on his outfit. He mentions the name of the place. Cohen's Cowboy Corral. And I think...
Actually, there was a bit... right as Maude says, I'm Dr. Arthur Harmon, where John Wayne turns to her and says, "With the way things are going in this country, ma'am, I believe you."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not funny.
No.
That's cringy.
Yeah.
Let's not.
Yeah.
But also 74.
It's 1974. So Arthur does his gun trick, and I think he drops the gun, and John Wayne's like, "A good thing you're not a surgeon,"
which he is. So that was a fun bit of funnery. And he turns to Maude and says, "Who's the little woman?"
Yes.
Which again.
Yeah. Little woman.
Little woman.
Yes. And Walter's like, "This is my wife." And Arthur's like, and this is my ball and chain.
My ball and chain.
Vivian's
just like giggly saying, "Oh, Arthur, you're so funny."
Yeah. Maude is uncharacteristically speechless.
Yes.
And
I think John Wayne asks for her name, and she barely gets out. So all that fun stuff happens, and I think at that point
they bring Philip over
and
meet him, and they shake. They're shaking hands,
and John Wayne's like, "Oh, you're pretty strong."
He pretends that
Philip's got a very strong grip,
hurting his hand. That's when I think Arthur brings him over to the bar, and
there was another bit that John Wayne did where he like got up and he says, "We need boys like you in America."
Oh, yeah.
That got strong grips and short hair.
Yeah.
Because apparently short hair is a problem.
Long hair
was an issue?
Yeah.
Really?
Don't you remember that thing? One of that politicians was like, and all you need is a haircut. It's like, there's a clip of it. You can find it. I don't know who it was, a senator or something.
Oh, of course it was.
But yelling, because, that was, the
Conservative
the counterculture from the flower power and also there was a lot of those opposed to the war in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I actually had one teacher who told me, because when I was in school, obviously Vietnam. Well, I was in high school, and obviously the Vietnam War was over by that time. But she said she remembered years earlier, like she had like this one class of seniors, and it was like all the boys knew that they were getting drafted.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they turned 18, and were going off to Vietnam. And it was quite it was like very depressing, because like they all felt like they're going, because all you heard about was these young men either being killed, being maimed, and it was not a pleasant thing. Yeah. So she said, like, just knowing that she's looking at all these young faces.
Can we stop trying to bring democracy to countries that need no democracy? Like, let them figure it out on their own. Can we stop also bombing countries for oil? That's kind of getting old. It's kind of getting old hat.
I also saw something on TikTok about I forget the guy's name. He was like a missionary, and there's this island somewhere like off of like India in the Indian Ocean or something, and there's this tribe there, and they don't want to be bothered.
No, I don't blame them. I don't blame them.
They don't want anyone coming
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
India has declared that these people, leave them alone. This guy was insistent that he had to bring Jesus to them.
Of course he did.
He was insistent.
Of course he did.
That he had to bring Jesus to him.
When did he die?
So on his third attempt to get to the island, they killed him.
Yeah.
They killed him.
I'm sure they did.
But he got off once, he got off twice,
and that third time.
And that third time was the charm.
Farewell, Magellan.
But yeah, it's like please do not force your religious beliefs on other people,
especially if they don't want it.
Especially if they don't want
it.
But some of these missionaries,
Jesus ain't gonna save you. You get to those pearly gates.
They don't want to take no for an answer. They wish to bring Caucasian Jesus, who never really existed, into your lives, when we know that Jesus was from the Middle East.
Yeah.
And they don't have blonde hair and blue eyes.
Wasn't it Billy Graham that was like trying to push forth the narrative that Jesus wasn't white?
Was it? I doubt it.
I remember seeing something on Facebook recently where it was a clip of Billy Graham saying that Jesus was not a white man.
But he was not white.
Jesus was Middle Eastern. He was black. Like, hello.
Well, I wouldn't say he was
well,
black,
he was darker complexion.
But he was brown skinned.
Yes.
He wasn't African, but yes, he was from the Middle East. So if you look at people from like Pakistan and those areas, they are brown-skinned people.
My personal favorite thing in the universe is seeing those pictures of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And people saying, like and repost to praise Jesus.
Oh, God, yeah.
And it tickles me every time.
Yeah.
Every time. Because there are some people that believe it.
They believe it, yes. Yes, they do.
Oh, it tickles me.
They do.
Oh, it tickles me.
Oh, well, yes.
So,
lack of education.
Moving gaily, ignorance really is bliss.
Yes.
So, moving forward.
So, Walter's going to get Duke a drink.
Yep, at the bar. And I think John Wayne makes a joke about how he's never met a cow that would give bourbon.
Yes, give bourbon. So he's getting a bourbon.
So he's getting a bourbon.
And he gets his bourbon and he has his drink.
He goes over to the couch and he looks at Walter's hairpiece and he says, "Oh,
a hairy
coaster." And slams his drink.
That was hilarious.
Slams his drink on the hairy hairpiece.
Yes. And that's when Philip, he starts asking Maude, are they going to have the big showdown?
Yes.
And Philip's expecting, Maude to let Duke have it.
Yep.
And and she's saying
Maud
he's
is
a
insisting
guest.
like he's a guest.
We can't
he's
embarrass
a big movie
him.
star. We can't embarrass him.
And Philip's like, but you always said, you have to stand up for your principles.
How come you won't stand up for yours?
Right.
And she turns to Philip, and it was one of those moments where I'm like, damn, that was evil.
Yeah.
That little child, what a mouth on him.
Yeah.
So,
Came a long way from season 1 where
literally.
he didn't say shit.
He didn't say 2 words. So,
Maud, she tells John Wayne, she says, I have to apologize
to my grandson. Because, he was expecting that, you and I would have a conversation and that I could ask you a couple of questions.
Yes.
And John Wayne says, well, you could ask me anything. So she's like, well,
she
I
wants
was
to
going
discuss
politics. And he says, well, I
can't
discuss politics with women.
With women.
And she's like, oh, well, I was going to ask you a question about gun control. And he goes, well, I can't discuss my feelings on gun control with a woman. And she turns to him again and says, well, what can you discuss with women? And he goes, well, I never discuss what I discuss with women with a lady.
In front of a lady.
Yes. And, she turns to Philip and goes, I can't really ask him any questions.
See, Philip, nothing to talk about.
Nothing to talk about.
Yes. And John Wayne is like...
Arthur points out to John Wayne, I loved what you said about women in politics at, I don't know what meeting he was at, but he was at some specific meeting. And, John Wayne then says, oh, well, I didn't really say anything. A woman can work wherever she wants.
It was something about, women in the workforce.
Women in the workplace.
Women in the workplace.
And
he said that,
women can work wherever they want.
Anywhere they want.
As long as dinner was on the table when they got home.
When the man comes
home. And Maude exits, and then we hear her belt. As long as dinner was on...
Well, she comes out. She comes through the door.
She storms out like John Wayne.
Like John Wayne did in Allegheny Uprising. That's what they were doing.
And then
she
sidesteps.
Yeah, she's like...
She does the John Wayne walk
like
right up to his face.
Of John Wayne.
And points to his face and says, let me tell you something, Shorty. And the audience loses it. And, there's a brief pause. Yeah. And Maude says... oh, the hell with it. Let's dance.
Yes. And,
so they dance, and the episode reaches its...
Well, then Maude tells him,
I
spend hours loving you, Duke.
I spend hours in dark theaters
loving you, Duke. And he's like, oh, that was you.
That was you. And that was a really cute moment. And then the episode ends. Also, there was something that I wanted to point out. Rod Parker became the script supervisor in 1974. So it stands to reason, because at that point, I think it was in season 3 where Maude had to bring the scripts to the network censors.
Oh.
And they needed a script supervisor to make sure that things were made continuity of sense.
Yes.
That things were in continuity, and also that it was able to get past the censors.
Yes. I'm sure.
So it was in 1974 until the end of the series that they had a script supervisor.
Interesting.
I wish the Golden Girls had a script supervisor.
God, yes.
Because
my Lord,
the continuity errors in that show.
The inconsistencies
in that show.
Oh my Lord.
Literally, we could have we could have a show on we could have a show on the continuity errors of the Golden Girls if we wanted to.
Absolutely.
That's gonna happen after this.
Well, I've told you my theory. We watch it, when we watch the Golden Girls. It's where sometimes it's
welcome to the multiverse.
It's the multiverse of the Golden Girls.
Multiverse of the Golden Girls. There was a friend of mine who's an actor in Connecticut. A very good friend of mine, actually. Him and I were talking, and he's like, you should write a book about how Maude became Dorothy. And I'm like, you really want me to do that? You really want me to do that? And it was really cute, and I actually thought about it.
How Maude became Dorothy. I don't quite get that.
Well, one could be, with the amount of continuity errors in the Golden Girls, you could literally weasel your way into the fact that Maude became, I think, a senator, and then she fell in with the wrong crowd, and then she had to join witness protection. So she was given this fallacy of a family where you have her ex-husband Stan, you have her mother Sophia, and it just could have been like the story of Maude failing in politics and then becoming an ex-substitute teacher in Florida.
But how does that explain, like, flashbacks of young Dorothy?
Shh, it's all part of the witness protection program.
No, I'm sorry. No, I refuse.
Men in Black.
I refuse. I am putting my heel down.
Of course.
My stiletto heel down. I am putting my platform pump stiletto heel down.
Of course you are.
I insist.
But
no.
that was one of the things that I had contemplated.
No, that theory sucks. My theory,
he
however...
He was the one that came up with it. He was the one that said, Maude could have fell into the witness protection program. And I'm like,
Absolutely
that's so cute.
No,
That's
Maude is in a completely separate universe.
I don't know.
The multiverse.
Vivian became Blanche.
The multiverse. That's the multiverse.
The multiverse. Good night.
And then you had the Good Times averse split off from that.
The good times averse.
Yes. Where we had the two Floridas. We've only had one.
We
Maude.
only had one Maude.
One Maude.
There's
Two
only
Floridas.
Two Maudes. Remember?
Which
all in the
separate?
family.
Oh, that's
all
true.
in the family verse.
That's true. Yes, the All in the Family verse. Okay.
But they still were they still in Tuckahoe?
Who?
When we saw Maude, Carol, and Walter,
I think they were.
They were still in Tuckahoe.
I think they were still in Tuckahoe. I think that stayed the same.
Isn't that
Yes.
something? I wish they had kept.
That's right.
Good
We had
times.
two Carols.
Two Carols.
We had two Carols. Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And then Marcia Rod comes back as Walter's secretary.
Yes.
Or Walter's
another variant.
Another variant.
Another variant.
All connected. It's all connected in the multiverse. Multiverse of madness. Oh my goodness gracious.
Lord. Oh my Lord. This was an interesting
It was a very
episode.
interesting episode.
It was interesting. There were some funny moments.
There were some very funny moments.
There were some very
I
funny
appreciated
moments.
that.
I laughed out loud heartily at the hairy coaster.
Yes, you did.
I really
you
did. That was very funny. But yeah, I just wonder what was going on behind the scenes. Like, we're gonna get John Wayne
on an episode of Maude.
episode of Maude.
That's very out of character for both B. Arthur and John Wayne.
Yeah.
So I think
and really, and in the end, really, they did.
I think it may have been. They may have done like a sort of wash this hand to wash that hand, rob Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
Like, I do believe that there was probably some type of negotiation where there would be publicity for Brannigan and John Wayne would be softened in the eyes of the American public.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking, they had to sort of, soft pedal it to John Wayne, too, where it's going to be like, well, Maude's going to sort of like, she's going to feign, like, that, this, like, being enraged and everything, but then you're once she's in your arms, she's gonna just be charmed,
be a puddle and be a charmer,
yeah,
and,
so
all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so it was kind of like
not necessarily what we would expect of Maude Findlay.
Yeah, I think an episode.
I also think at this point was when they started to soften Maude's image a little bit.
Yes, definitely.
Especially considering the first two seasons, she was very hard. I don't want to say hard-browed. She was very aggressive. She was
liberal.
very, very domineering.
Yes.
And we still got domineering Maude.
Yes.
It was just once John Wayne entered the fray, it was like she's now a pussycat.
Exactly. I would have almost liked to have seen this done where like it wasn't a real Hollywood actor, and it was like
a TV actor that would portray
but like that it was like an actor that wasn't really somebody famous, so that they could really like let Maude loose on them.
True.
When they came something like a chauvinistic remorse. Even
if, look, we see that and we'll continue to see that until the end of the series between Maude and Arthur.
Yes.
Like, I think that's where like, Because one of the things that Norman Lear did was, and he made it very clear when he was creating Maude, that he liked showing the hypocrisy of both sides.
Yes,
He
true.
liked showing that both sides were, fractured but whole.
Yes, true.
To my South Park peeps, you know where that comes from.
I don't know where that comes from.
It's a video game, literally like South Park, the fractured butthole.
Oh. Bump.
Yeah. Oh, potty humor.
Yes.
They're making their money, though. They're making their money.
Oh, my Lord, yes.
But that's more or less where we saw the dynamic between conservative logic and liberal logic, where you would have Maude, who's like hyper liberal to the point of being a white savior, and then you have Arthur being this sort of aggressive conservative to the point of like just wants it to be white is right, the men are always right, and gays should not belong anywhere but in the closet.
Right.
Like that's where they were at. And
I can't wait for the episode where Arthur...
the gay bar?
creates his group, the Fathers Against Gays.
The Fathers Against Gays.
The FAGs.
You want to know what the sad thing is? That episode doesn't come out until like the 6th season.
Oh, okay. We've got a ways to go.
We have a ways to go. And then by that time we have a new Philip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because in the 6th season
Philip,
we have...
Philip aged out.
We have a new Philip and we have a new housekeeper. We have Victoria, who is from the West Indies.
Oh, I think I vaguely remember her.
So we have her and we have the new Philip.
We have her to look
and
forward to.
because I think in the 5th season was when Mrs. Naugatuck leaves.
Okay.
And Mrs. Naugatuck doesn't show up she shows up in the 3rd season, but she doesn't show up until I think the 4th episode.
Gotcha.
The next episode's going to be fun.
Okay.
Because we get to discuss polyamory.
Oh!
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
Interesting.
And also it's about, that episode's a lot about free love and about loving your neighbor and about all that fun stuff, so.
Not the literal neighbor, right?
Technically.
Oh.
I don't want to spoil anything, but the episode's called The Kiss for a reason.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, this
We'll
episode...
find out next week.
We will find out next week. But I always do enjoy watching this just because I will always appreciate any time B. Arthur gets to show her physical comedy. Like especially when she like storms into the room.
Yes.
And when just any opportunity where we get to see Maude sort of come unglued is always entertaining to me because you know when you're so used to seeing that specific type, to see something a little left of center is always refreshing.
Yes, very true.
But yeah, so that was Maude Meets The Duke.
The Duke, which is funny that they called it Maude Meets The Duke because they made such a thing
out of it being Duke.
Just Duke. Should have just been Maude Meets Duke.
I mean, that sounds a little pet name-ish.
I know, right? It's like
just a little pet name.
Yeah, it sounds like they
come here, Duke. Come here, Duke.
It sounds like they got one of those big dogs.
A bloodhound.
Yeah, something like that.
A Great Dane.
A Great Dane. Yes, a Great Dane. That's what. When I hear Duke, I think of like a Great Dane.
When I think of a Great Dane, I think of Scooby-Doo.
Okay. All right.
Apples and oranges.
That's fine. That's fine.
If you would like to follow us, you can on all forms of social media.
True.
You can on Facebook at God'll Get You For That Walter,
Yes.
and YouTube at God'll Get You For That Walter,
Absolutely.
and Instagram at Findley's Friendly Appliances.
Exactly.
Where can they find you?
Everything Toni Homeperm, and of course it's
Tony with an I.
With an I. Facebook, YouTube,
Twitter, TikTok,
Instagram.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
If you would like to follow me, you can on all forms of social media at That Tomcat, and that you can even go to my website and find all of my things there, and my LinkedIn, and my Instagram, my Twitter, my TikTok, my everything. It's exhausting. It is so exhausting.
It's so hard being a social.
It's so hard being a socialite.
It's so
hard being a socialite.
I know. I need a person to do this for me.
Yeah, I know. There are people that do that.
We need a person, but they have to be good and they have to do it for free.
They have to do it for free. Yes, they have to do it for free.
That's the problem.
That is the hard part.
In the meantime, we just do it. Sisters are doing it for themselves.
Yep, standing on their own 2 feet and ringing on their own bells.
Yes.
I've actually been seeing a lot of Annie Lennox's. Literally, I've been seeing a lot of Annie Lennox's posts, and she's like promoting like Diva turning 30, like her album Diva, and I'm just like, I remember when Diva came out, and I loved the album, and I always loved seeing. I think that was one of my first.
Go back to Sweet Dreams.
That was by the Eurythmics. I loved watching Diva, like the music videos, because it was it was like seeing drag without being drag, and I'm like that was my first literal introduction to drag.
Yes.
And I loved the feathered headdress, and I loved the.
What about walking on
broken glass, where they were like in this dilapidated mansion, and Hugh Laurie and just the costumes and the makeup. And I know.
Yes. Fabulous.
But that was my first introduction to drag. Okay. And it made me like I wanted to be. I
Made
wanted
her
to
who
be
she
Annie
is.
Lennox. I wanted to be Annie Lennox.
Until she became B. Arthur.
I wanted to be Annie Lennox, and then I became B. Arthur.
I know. Kind of a disconnect there, but
not necessarily. I mean, Annie Lennox was still a very politically active individual who has a very what is the type of term I want to use for this? She has a very specific voice that when you hear Annie Lennox talk, it's very, very specific.
Okay.
And that's what I've been told about me. I have a very specific and unique voice.
I hear that.
You do, every time.
Every day, Pussycat, every day.
Still, oh my God, that when LaBelle asked me yesterday, because we had done a drag show.
A really big
show.
Of the workout.
And
fundraiser for Thursday's Child of Long Island.
Fundraiser for Thursday's Child.
We're givers.
We're givers. We're not takers.
Yes.
Unless the lights are off.
Yes.
But
are we also catchers and not pitchers, or?
That is a conversation for another episode. That is a conversation for another
sixth
episode.
Season.
Catch as catch can. Catch as catch can for the 6th season. But that joke that when LaBelle was like, if you look closely, who does Tomcat resemble? Yes. And Stella shouts over everybody, an old lady. That tickled me. I still want to know who called out. I still want to know who called out B. Arthur because
somebody did.
I want their name, I want their number, I want their address, and I want their shoe size.
Yes. She might even want to bear their children.
It's entirely possible.
It could happen.
I've been known to bear children. I do have the hips for it.
You have the hips, Pussycat.
But we thank you so much for listening to God Will Get You For That, Walter. You can listen to us all over where all podcasts are found. And you will hear us on another episode of God Will Get You For That, Walter. Have a good night, guys.
Bye-bye.